Datara of the Akatsuki. You will tell us everything you know. You have no choice. You are now under my control. Datara's eyes receded into his skull, trapped in Sasuke's genjutsu. Sasuke let out a sigh, turning away to Anko. While we wait, we might as well start examining his supposed Kekkei Genkai. Agreed, Anko proclaimed with joy. Time to play! Sasuke excused himself so he could focus on keeping the genjutsu up. He left the interrogation room, coming face to face with a certain blonde who had saved his life. His active Sharingan stared into Naruto's blue eyes. You're back. You're taller. Naruto gave his signature foxy smirk. Sasuke let a faint smile appear on his face. They shook one another's hand. I see you and Anko are getting along well. She's a good teacher. Arguably better than Kakashi, Sasuke replied. She was able to reshape those negative aspects of myself. Naruto chuckled. Well, if you call being an interrogator a reshaping of your negative aspects, then I suppose you're right. I assume she also helped you with your curse mark. Sasuke nodded. And what about you? How was your trip? Anything but relaxing. Every waking hour was spent training. I probably learned every available jutsu Jiraiya had from my chakra affinities, even from water and earth style. I have a list of every jutsu I mastered. Later, we can compare lists, Sasuke said with a smirk. Already challenging me, are you? Just like the old days? Old habits die hard, Sasuke replied with a playful sneer. I was told Tsunade was going to pit you against the others, and then myself. I'm looking forward to it. Naruto grinned. Just don't use your Sharingan to steal my skills before we compare our lists. I'll try, he said, turning to look through the glass at Datara. My genjutsu's almost finished with him. See you around, Naruto. Hinata. Naruto and Hinata waved as he went back inside to finish the interrogation. They walked back to Tsunade, whose eyes were still glued on the Akatsuki member. You only wanted me to hear Sasuke again, didn't you? He asked with a knowing look. Maybe, she replied, biting her fingernail as Sasuke undid the genjutsu placed on Datara. I have your spar with everyone set for tomorrow afternoon. Get some rest. After that, I'll fill you in on the information we get from Datara. Naruto nodded hesitantly, seeing the look of worry on the old lady's face. Concerned for her village, but most of all, him, being threatened by the existence of the Akatsuki. As the couple left, Tsunade began thinking. The statue the team saw sealing Shukaku had 9 eyes, one of them partially open, signifying half of the One-Tails. So far, none of the others had been captured. Now she was assuming the statue needed to absorb the tailed beasts in order. If this was correct, then the Two-Tails Jinchuriki would be targeted next. From the information Naruto had given, the Two-Tails was in the hidden cloud. She quickly decided to return to her office and send a message to the Raikage, telling him to keep their Jinchuriki well hidden. The cloud was not friends with the leaf, but they did know they respected their tailed beasts more than other villages. So, they would want information on the Akatsuki's next objective. She only hoped the message was received quickly, and that it was heeded. Afternoon of next day. Training Ground 12. Naruto stretched the tension out of his joints as he and Hinata walked through Training Ground 12. It was often unused as it was made for large group training sessions. In recent years, it had also gained the name Training Ground Rookie, named after the 12 rookies who made it to the second stage of the Chunin exams on their first attempt. Of course, they were referring to Naruto and the other fresh genin from their class who had graduated. As they neared the center, he could see a group of old faces. At the head of the group was Tsunade, alongside Sasuke and Sakura. The pink-haired female turned around. Naruto, you're late! Naruto winced at her tone. No need to yell, Sakura. I haven't grown deaf. Are you seriously telling me that's Naruto? Ino asked in a shocked voice. Naruto caught the sight of Ino and her teammates, Choji and Shikamaru. He had seen the Nara earlier that day. Choji was wearing his clan's special armor, similar to old-fashioned shinobi gear from the days of Hashirama Senju. Ino was wearing a newer version of her old outfit. The next to speak was Lee, who of course was excited for their spar. I see you're as youthful as ever, Lee. I am indeed, my friend. I cannot wait for our battle. Naruto chuckled. Just don't pull out the 8 gates or your maximum speed. Otherwise, I won't be able to take you and the others at once. Lee nodded with a grin. He turned to see Tenten, who had also not changed much in terms of appearance. Neji, as silent as ever, had replaced his old clothes with a white kimono shirt, with loose sleeves and matching pants. He gave an ever-so-slight nod of acknowledgement to the blonde, who returned the gesture. The last two were Kiba and Shino, the remaining members of Team 7 and 8. Kiba wore a black zip-up jacket with fur lining around the waist. He had grown in height, and his shoulders were much broader. Shino wore a large jacket that went down to his knees. The hood rested on his shoulders. His old glasses were replaced with a stronger pair. Naruto walked up to his old teammate and shook his hand. I hear you've been doing well, Naruto, the Aburame said. As are you, Naruto chuckled. Hope you show me a good battle. Trust me, I will, Shino replied with a faint smirk hidden by his jacket. Alright guys, Tsunade ordered. I want Naruto to be in for a surprise, so don't start talking about your training yet. As you know, this is an assessment for both Naruto and the rest of you as well. Go all out. Lord Jiraiya says he can handle it. Naruto grinned evilly. I'll give you 5 minutes to set up before I come after you. Better run. Without a need for words, Team 10, Team Guy, Shino, Kiba, and Sakura vanished from view. They had all definitely increased their speed, and they were all desperate to prove themselves. Tsunade, Hinata, and Sasuke walked to the far end of the training grounds, where the Hokage pulled out a crystal ball so they could watch everything. Naruto stood patiently in the center. He was willing to bet that Shikamaru was going to hide in the trees with a smaller group, while the others came after him out in the open. From what he saw from their appearance, Sakura, Neji, and Lee were going to be the most troublesome, with Shino close behind. Their biggest advantage was their strength in numbers, which he assumed they were going to use. He would have to find a way around that. 5 minutes passed, and no one appeared. He waited 5 more minutes before slowly walking towards the dense forest. As soon as he contacted the shadows on the ground, he was trapped by Shikamaru, as expected. Shadow Possession Jutsu is a success, the Nara smirked. Ino, you're up. Ino stepped forward as Naruto raised an eyebrow. I have the Nine Tails in my head. Do you really think the mind transfer jutsu will work on me? Ino smirked devilishly. No, but this might be able to hold you down for a moment. Naruto readied himself as much as he could being caught in the shadow possession, but he didn't expect to start feeling flashes of intense images appear in his head. It took him a moment to realize that Ino was transferring disturbing thoughts to his mind. He had seen and witnessed far worse than what he was seeing, but it was still disturbing. He opened his eyes to see Ino and Shikamaru still performing their technique, and he could sense Choji behind him, rearing his fist back. Naruto tried channeling chakra through his body, but to no avail. He understood what was happening as soon as Choji made contact with his skull, sending him flying into a tree. Ino was using the images to disrupt his ability to mold chakra. It was clever, and it did its job. He was now on the ground, his head quickly healing as he sensed more incoming opponents. Choji swung his enlarged fist at the blonde, who easily dodged. He had expected the trio to pull something off, but disrupting his chakra was unexpected. It was what he wanted to see, but he would not fall for the trick again. Naruto pulled out a flash bomb, throwing it at Shikamaru. He grunted and dodged the projectile, disrupting his attack with the shadow possession. The bomb released a flash of vibrant light, blinding the trio. Naruto went in, striking each of them down with a single hit. They were on the ground in seconds. You guys did alright for a first assault, but you're lacking in speed, and that mind trick won't work twice. I'll let you try again. He let out a laugh before flashing away to fight the others. How troublesome, Shikamaru sighed. Did you get the information, Ino? Ino nodded. Vaguely. Forgetting the Nine Tails, his mind was extremely hard to scan so quickly. Shikamaru nodded. Let's get the information to the rest. After Naruto finishes with the next group, we move on to the second stage of the plan. Naruto sprinted through the trees, eyes peeled for any movement. A flash of white could be seen to the side following him. He stopped abruptly and threw a kunai at the disturbance. The blade planted itself into the tree beside Neji, who jumped away as Naruto appeared in a yellow flash. Naruto jumped at him and began a bout of taijutsu with the Hyuga. I've never fought someone that used the gentle fist besides Hinata, and I will admit, you're good. Really good. Your training with her must have been useful. Neji remained silent, focusing on blocking Naruto's punches. The blonde was faster than he had expected, and he knew he was nowhere near his top speed. He ducked under a punch and went in for an air palm. Naruto moved his hand in front of Neji's, absorbing the wind chakra with ease. He then sent an air palm of his own, blasting Neji through the tree. He flipped in midair and landed on his feet. Naruto dashed after him, but was blocked by a wave of kunai. Tenten appeared beside Neji, holding her sealing scrolls. Neji stood up and went through hand signs. Naruto prepared himself as Tenten released a barrage of weapons, empowered by Neji's great breakthrough jutsu. Naruto brought his hand up, lightning forming around his fingertips. He focused the energy into a single point, creating a small orb of electricity. Sorry, Kakashi, but I'm borrowing your Chidori bolt. He released the orb, which shot ahead at blinding speed. The shockwaves it produced sent the projectiles flying in every direction. Tenten and Neji grunted, going back in for a taijutsu battle. Tenten fought using her staff, while Neji changed styles, opting for something similar to Hinata's flowing fist. Naruto pulled out his sword, an Uzumaki pendant hanging from the bottom of the handle. He blocked Tenten with his blade while avoiding Neji as much as possible. He knew he could override the gentle fist, but wasn't taking any chances. As he blocked and dodged, he made sure to keep his senses open for Lee. If he jumped in, he would have to increase his speed before they could pull anything off. You two have definitely improved. Wind style and weaponry are a good match. Tenten panted as she threw an explosive kunai. What do you think of my new seals? She asked, pointing to the storage scrolls on her wrist as she fought. Naruto gave a thumbs up as he jumped into the air, releasing a fireball jutsu down on the two. Tenten pulled out a pair of nunchucks. She spun them at high speeds, pushing the flames away with ease. Neji ran after Naruto, who decided to bring them further into the forest. Tenten followed overhead, raining down shuriken. Naruto stopped and engaged Neji, using the trees to block his strikes. At the same time, he used wind style, air current dance, to keep him on his toes and protect himself from Tenten's barrage. Neji was growing agitated from the trees blocking him, so he performed a rotation, which blasted them into the sky. Naruto jumped high above them, sensing a new presence behind him. He twisted around just in time to block a double punch from Rock Lee. Naruto was sent crashing down into the dirt. He had no time to be amazed at Lee's speed, as Tenten almost slammed the end of her staff into his face. He rolled over and slapped the staff out of her hands, planting a fist into her gut that sent her flying against a rock. Neji got as close as he could to the blonde before performing another rotation. Naruto was almost caught in the spinning chakra before he flashed away, back to the kunai he threw at Neji at the beginning of their fight. He had decided not to flash to his opponents directly, to make things at least a little fair. He focused on his gravity seals, bringing them down 2 stages. He had enough time to catch his breath before the 2 rivals approached him. Neji sent out wave after wave of air palms as he and Lee engaged in a furious bout of taijutsu. In the end, Naruto used his Hell's Fire Dash to knock out Neji and almost caught Lee with it as well. Lee was about to use his Shadow Clone, but was prevented with a Paralysis Seal. "Your teamwork has definitely improved, you two," he praised the Hyuga and Taijutsu master. Lee gave a grin before Naruto flashed away to the next fight. He managed to turn his head and see Team 10 running to join them. "What chances do you think we have of our plan working, Lee?" Shikamaru asked. "So long as he doesn't increase his speed beyond 5 levels, I would say we have a small chance. He still hasn't pulled out any major techniques, so we don't know what he has at his disposal." Shikamaru nodded. "Ino took care of that problem. Choji, go get Tenten. Ino, wake up Neji. Once everyone is ready, we move out." Shikamaru let out a sigh as he went over the plan once again in his mind. The chances of success were low, but there was still a small chance. And that was all they needed to make this work. Naruto appeared back in the clearing. He looked around to see that the location had changed. The ground was torn up. Large holes dotted the area, and boulders were everywhere. Probably the work of Kiba, Akamaru, and Sakura, Naruto mused. They were setting this up while I fought the others. What are they planning? He decided to sit down and wait for them to show themselves. As he waited, he toyed with a kunai. He tossed it into the air, watching its blade shine in the light. He stabbed it into the dirt and spread out his senses. He felt no one, besides Sasuke, Hinata, and Tsunade off in the distance. "Strange," he muttered. He placed his hand on the ground, feeling for any vibrations. Still nothing. He scanned his surroundings. Still nothing. Not a single soul was present, and it put him on edge. Kurama's negative emotion sensing was not going to work on them either. "Furball, got any idea what's going on?" The fox shook his head. "That Yamanaka could have left something in your head. No, I made sure to do a full mind cleansing afterwards. They're doing something. Something that needs them to have complete secrecy." Naruto opened his eyes and snapped his wrist upward. Once the kunai he threw reached its peak, he grabbed the one he placed on the ground and flashed to the one above. Giant Rasengan! The orb of swirling chakra expanded to cover the entire field, blowing away the broken earth until a crater was left behind. Naruto landed in the center, chakra signatures showing up on his radar. He grunted as he saw the remains of shredded tags placed in the dirt. They must have been placed in the large holes left by Kiba. Sensory inhibitor seals. Uncommon, but considering Sakura and Tenta know their way around seals, I guess it makes sense. He turned to see Sakura in the lead, followed by everyone else. Shikamaru, Shino, and Tenten stopped at the top of the crater while the others went down after him. Naruto slipped into his stance as his opponents surrounded him. They all came at him at once, making Naruto decrease his gravity seals by another 2 levels. He engaged Sakura first, blocking a bone-shattering punch with a grunt. Akamaru and Kiba swung their claws, while Neji and Lee stayed on the outside, jumping in for a quick hit on occasion. Naruto jumped over Choji as he smashed his fist into the dirt. He landed in front of Sakura, who delivered another punch into his crossed arms. He pushed back, her smirk putting him on edge. He saw Choji and Ino coming from each side, each of them holding a kunai. He could also feel Kiba burrowing underneath him. He jumped and did a split kick, knocking the kunai from their hands. The ringed handles twirled in the air, ending up in front of Naruto's palms. He pushed wind chakra through his hands, sending the kunais flying at high speeds at Choji and Ino. They had to dodge, allowing Naruto to jump once again to avoid Kiba sprouting from the ground. The Inuzuka threw an explosive kunai. Naruto put his hands up. Wind style, great breakthrough! He pushed himself against the explosion, landing a short distance away. He had no time to rest as the sky was filled with Fuma Shuriken from Tenten's scrolls. He decreased his gravity seals another level, adding Hell's Fire Dash onto himself. He dashed around, dodging each shuriken with ease. He could see Shino's bugs mixing with projectiles, giving them lightning chakra. He was pushed back to the center of the crater, seeing that the others were readying jutsu. Water, earth, and lightning was sent out at him, along with the Fuma Shuriken. Naruto took in a long, deep breath. The attacks were inches away when he let his chakra blast out of him. His suppression seal was deactivated, allowing Neji to see his chakra reserves with Byakugan. His chakra is far above the amount Shukaku had during the Chunin exams. Incredible. He can stop attacks with nothing but his own chakra density. From his vantage point, Shikamaru cursed. There was no chance they were going to get through that aura if he used it again. He had a feeling that even his shadow possession would be shattered from his chakra. He would have to look even harder for the perfect time to execute his plan. The others were still on the ground from the pressure Naruto was giving. Shino, can you take them on while they recover? The Nara asked. Shino nodded. I was once on his team. I have fought against the dense chakra before. I'll do what I can. Shino dashed forward, spreading out his insects, each of them gathering up lightning chakra and sending it into him. His body lit up with lightning. Naruto grinned and did the same with fire. The two clashed intensely, occasionally sending out streams of fire and lightning to confuse each other. Shino backflipped away and sent out a thunderbolt. Naruto flashed through hand signs, creating a mud wall. The wall cracked from the blast. Shino appeared above it and threw a punch at the blonde. He blocked and kicked him away. He had to throw his arms up again to block Sakura, who was performing hand signs with her single hand. Water style, water prison jutsu. Naruto was unable to breathe as Sakura began closing her fist. The sphere slowly began to shrink, attempting to crush Naruto. Naruto knew he could escape with his Hiraishin, but decided to try something else. He poured fire chakra into his body, pumping out as much as he could. Sakura and the others' eyes widened. They could see flames beginning to sprout, causing steam to rise from the water. Don't tell me he has enough chakra to turn that whole prison into steam, Tenten declared in surprise. Believe me, he does, Shikamaru replied. He's only doing this to see how far he can go. He could escape any time with the flying Raijin. Tenten scoffed. That flying Raijin is so broken. How did you even find out he knew it? Shikamaru rolled his eyes. His resemblance to the fourth Hokage has always been known to me. I'm shocked no one else realized the connection, considering it was on our faces the whole time. I had Tsunade 100% confirm everything. After that, it was not difficult to find out he knew his father's greatest technique. Naruto's body was now completely covered in flames, the steam blocking everyone's view of the Jinchuriki. Sakura, who was still channeling chakra to the sphere, had to jump away due to the heat. The water prison exploded in a wave of steam, which Neji cleared away with a wind jutsu. Naruto stood in the center, the fire surrounding him dissipating. He brought his hand up to the sky, lightning charging up across his arm. Scattered Thunder Spear! Bolts of electricity shot after their targets, not lighting up as they dodged and ran. They managed to all join as Kiba made a large mud wall. They expected the lightning to crash into the wall, but instead flew back to Naruto's arm. Let's try this again, with a larger burst. Ultimate Thunder Spear! The single blast of lightning turned the wall into rubble as everyone jumped away. Sakura used her chakra-enhanced fist to cause fissures in the earth to form. Kiba used his earth style to send chunks of earth flying at Naruto. He weaved through the projectiles, having to do a backflip when Ino charged at him. He landed and had his feet knocked out from under him by his fellow blonde. He managed to use his hands to propel him back to his feet. He landed beside Ino, intending to knock her out. Instead, Ino used her clan's original technique. Mind Transfer Jutsu. Ino's body went limp as her conscience seeped into Naruto's mind. As she materialized inside his mindscape, she felt something off. You made a big mistake doing that. Ino turned to see Naruto standing there. The figure of the Nine-Tails sat down behind him. "How are you still here?" Ino asked in surprise. "Kurama kept me here," Naruto replied simply. "No, I only have one space for rent in this place, so you are going to have to leave." Naruto ran forward and punched Ino in the gut, reversing her mind transfer jutsu. She woke on the ground, slowly regaining control over her body. Naruto stood over her, intending to plant a suppression seal on her. However, his body refused to move. He turned his gaze to Shikamaru, who had a shadow stretched out to hold the blonde. Multiple strands were crawling up his body, and several more were hovering over the ground, ready to pierce Naruto if necessary. "Shadow Web's jutsu complete," the Nara said with a grin. "This time, I have no intention of releasing you." Naruto struggled to turn to face him. "Was this your plan? Get the jump on me with your shadows?" "Not entirely. The first time Ino used her clan's jutsu on you, she extracted information. Specifically, how far you were willing to go against us, as well as what techniques you weren't intending to use. You've brought your gravity seals down 5 levels in total. That was your original intention, and you've used most of your planned techniques. In my book, against you, that's a win." Naruto smirked. "Well played. But just because you made me go past predetermined expectations doesn't mean you've won. You've pushed me past that point, which is commendable. But I have no intention of losing to you all." He watched as everyone prepared for battle, taking his gravity seals down yet another 5 levels. He forced chakra out of his body, creating a shadow clone without hand signs. Shikamaru moved his shadows as fast as he could to trap the clone, but he was unable to do so as the clone flashed behind the Nara. He delivered a solid kick to the head, sending Shikamaru to flying to Tenten. The two landed in the dirt, hastily getting back up, only to find that 2 clones held kunai to their necks. "2 down," the clone yelled to Naruto, now free of the shadow possession. Naruto cracked his knuckles, vanishing in a display of speed. He reappeared behind each of his friends, engaging them in battle. He knocked out Ino after avoiding a water dragon. He took out Choji with a chakra-enhanced fist to the back. Kiba and Shino managed to defeat their clone opponents and joined Sakura, while Neji and Lee fought 2 clones at once. Sakura's punch was blocked by Naruto, who went in for a punch of his own. Sakura wrenched free from his grip, as Kiba sprouted spikes from the ground. Naruto had to jump into the air. Shino was waiting, using his thunder cage to destroy the clone. The real Naruto stepped in, charging up a Chidori in his hand. He ran straight at Kiba, who created a mud wall right before Naruto reached him. He turned in surprise as Naruto appeared beside him, instead of hitting the wall. He let the lightning run loose, shocking Kiba into submission. He dashed off to Shino and Sakura, taking on a more offensive style. Sakura was still going in for a final blow, while Shino decided that Naruto was too risky to fight with his new speed. He jumped back and began weaving hand signs, his insects swarming around him. Naruto and Sakura's punches were causing massive dust clouds to form with every contact. Sakura was not letting up, but Naruto showed no signs of fatigue, unlike the medic. He blocked an axe kick with his arm, grabbing Sakura's leg and throwing her as far as he could. She crashed into the dirt and readjusted herself. She threw 2 smoke bombs, blinding Naruto. Wind style. Great breakthrough. Naruto blew the smoke away just in time to see Shino charging at him, lightning filling his palm. Chidori? I knew he had the potential to use it, but it takes up a lot of chakra. This must be his only use, and he's going to make it count. Naruto was ready to face him head-on. He let Shino get close enough to touch him before he created his own Chidori. He reached his arm out to counter Shino, but the Aburame stopped abruptly. His old teammate did an expert backflip, allowing his bug clone to release a large ninjutsu. Lightning style. Lightning Dragon Jutsu. The dragon barreled into Naruto, sending him skidding along the ground. He was not seriously hurt by the lightning, having gained a resistance for it. But he was surprised by the display. Shino was now on the ground, his Chidori fading away. A last-ditch effort, even when you couldn't hold the Chidori. Impressive, Shino. But this also means you're out of chakra, and out of the fight. Shino nodded. I did what I needed to do. Naruto narrowed his eyes, seeing that the remaining fighters were nowhere to be seen. Hands shot from the ground. Naruto noticed and jumped away as Kiba and Akamaru appeared, throwing a Fuma Shuriken. He was going to pluck it out of the air before it transformed into Sakura, her fist hitting him in the gut. She smirked before Naruto burst into smoke. The real Naruto appeared above her, using a paralysis seal to immobilize her. Due to her low chakra reserves, she was unable to break them. Kiba and Akamaru charged at him with fang over fang. He weaved through them while defending himself from Neji and Lee, who had reappeared. He redirected Neji's air pump to hit Kiba, while he threw a kunai at Akamaru with deadly accuracy. The Inuzuka and his dog were now out of the picture, leaving the two taijutsu users. Neji lashed out with a rotation, catching Naruto inside. The clone burst, the real Naruto slamming a Rasengan into Neji, countering the rotation and sending him flying. Lee grinned. Now that he was the last one remaining, he could open one of his 8 gates. He was about to do so when Naruto pointed a kunai at his neck from behind. And that's the end, the blonde said with a smile. Are you sure? A female voice asked. Sakura now stood behind Naruto, kunai at his back. Lee smiled at the pink-haired You broke the paralysis seal? Naruto asked with surprise. I used medical ninjutsu to remove it from my system. Impressive, Naruto replied. However, I still win. Sakura felt a second Naruto behind her, kunai in hand. Sakura sighed, lifting her arms up. Alright, you win. Lee smiled in agreement. You fought so youthfully, Naruto. Most incredible. Naruto grinned, releasing his clones. He watched as everyone collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Tsunade, Sasuke, and Hinata joined the group. You all did incredible, as to be expected, Tsunade said with pride. There is no doubt in my mind that you all deserve your Chunin and Jonin rank. The group smiled with happiness. The Hokage turned to Naruto. And how much more do you have left in you? Naruto wiped a single bead of sweat from his forehead. They were all strong, pushed me farther than I expected. But I still have plenty of techniques in my arsenal, not to mention I only deactivated 10 levels out of 50 of my gravity seals. I could go on for much, much longer. Tsunade nodded, not bothering to be surprised by Naruto's nonchalantness after an intense battle. Hinata got to work healing their minor wounds, while Sasuke helped Sakura to her feet. You fought well, he said blankly. Sakura smiled. Thanks. Sasuke smiled slightly, gaining a sly grin from Naruto. He rolled his eyes and turned to the blonde. I suppose you'll want to have our battle next? The blonde was about to reply but was cut off by Tsunade. I'm afraid we'll have to postpone that. We got confirmation on Sasori's information. The spy did have a planned meeting with Sasori. It's supposed to happen in the next few days at Tenchi Bridge. I want to send a team there. Of course, I want Naruto and Hinata to go. I have 2 others in mind, but I am apprehensive about them. One is Sasuke, but I'm worried about Orochimaru being there and going after you. Sasuke stepped forward. Don't worry about me, Lady Tsunade. I trust Naruto and Hinata to help me if I get captured. And I can set up a safety measure, the blonde proclaimed. I can set up a special seal I created to prevent Sasuke from being captured. Tsunade nodded reluctantly. I'll want an explanation of this safety measure later. The second is someone who Orochimaru, for lack of a better term, created. A Jonin not known to the general public. He's in the Yonbu, once under Kakashi. He harbors no intense hatred for the snake, but I'm worried about sending him nonetheless. But if this safety measure is effective, I suppose he can accompany you. Naruto grinned. I assume we leave tomorrow? Tsunade nodded. Yes, I'll have your fourth member meet with you later today, so you can get to know each other. You will depart bright and early. Sasuke let out a soft sigh. In that case, I will return to my clan's district and get some rest. We will need it for the journey. He turned back to Sakura, who moved a little closer to him before they vanished in a lightning-styled body flicker. Naruto grinned evilly. Those two really are close. I saw them hold hands the second before they left. Shikamaru walked over, a slight limp in his step. Yeah, those two have become quite a pairing, even if they aren't seen much together. Before long, they're gonna take your place as the best couple in the Leaf, Ino teased as the others joined them. Naruto rolled his eyes. Don't know when it became a competition, but there's no way they can beat us. He pulled Hinata close with his one arm, making her blush slightly. So, did you think that was a good fight or what? Everyone's sweat dropped. Naruto had been going easy on them, yet he wiped the floor with them without looking fatigued in the slightest. Out of them all, Sakura, Lee, and Neji were the least tired out. They still had more in their arsenal, but were never given the chance to use them. Yes, Naruto, it was a good fight, Kiba drawled out. You beat us to a pulp and you're still without a scratch. Oh, I had a few cuts, the blonde replied. Kurama just healed them, as always. You guys were good. If I hadn't grown as well over the last few years, you would have won for sure. Be honest with us. How much of your power did you use? Tenten asked, picking up one of her many discarded Fuma Shuriken. Naruto pondered for a moment. Well, I still have 40 levels of gravity seals left. Most of my jutsu went unused. I barely used sealing techniques or the flying Raijin. In total, I'd say I went around 15 to 20% of my full power. That's excluding the use of Kurama's chakra. Everyone's sweat dropped again. Naruto was still the same as he was 2 years ago. Stronger than everyone, with the only possible exception being Sasuke and Hinata now. Tsunade stopped Naruto from going into further detail of his training and skills, telling him to go rest up for his mission. The blonde reluctantly agreed, but not before looking at his friends again. After our next mission, let's all meet up and have dinner. You know, to let us catch up. Yes, Lee proclaimed, and let us also celebrate your return to the village and the growing of our youth. Troublesome, but I guess it wouldn't be too bad, Shikamaru groaned. Sounds like fun, Shino said stoically. I agree, Kiba said. Then it's settled, Naruto said. I'll make sure to let you all know the date and time later. See you around. With that, Naruto and Hinata vanished in a yellow flash. I will never get used to that, Tsunade sighed. I didn't with Minato, and I won't with him. Speaking of, I assume all of you have kept Naruto's heritage a secret from everyone, even your family. Everyone nodded seriously. They swore not to reveal the information they knew, so long as Naruto did not reveal it to the public. Good. You are all allowed to go home. And expect a promotion within the next few days. Naruto and Hinata's apartment. Naruto and Hinata reappeared in their apartment. The former collapsed onto the bed, bored. Hinata came to sit beside him as he stared at the ceiling. She ran her hand through his spiked hair, feeling the rugged yet smooth tips. She wondered what he would look like with his hair braided, but pushed the image away, knowing Naruto wouldn't be fond of the style. What's on your mind? Hinata asked, knowing the look her boyfriend had on his face. I was thinking about that man from the Akatsuki when we rescued Gaara, the one with the Rinnegan. Yeah, it's been stuck in my head too. It's hard to believe. Could it really be the real thing? Hinata asked. caressing Naruto's whiskers. Kurama says yes, and he knows those eyes better than anyone, besides his fellow tailed beasts. Although he has no idea how someone could get the Rinnegan in the first place. Under normal circumstances, it's impossible to obtain those eyes. Hinata placed her head beside Naruto's, resting against him as the two merged, appearing in the lush grassland that was the blonde's mindscape. Kurama lay underneath his giant tree, his eyes distraught. "Do you mind explaining like you said you would?" Naruto asked. Kurama grunted. "Just like the legends say, the Rinnegan is one of the strongest ocular powers. Although its power is often underestimated. Even with one Rinnegan, the user would automatically be comparable to a high-ranking Jonin. Granted, a large sum of chakra is needed to use the Rinnegan abilities at all. Mastering it is an even greater task." "How many people have had the Rinnegan in the past?" Hinata asked, looking up at the fox. "Just one. He was the one who created me and my siblings. Your people would refer to him as the Sage of Six Paths." "The creator of chakra and the shinobi world?" Naruto asked in awe. "Technically, no. There was someone before him who was the origin of chakra. This person was Kaguya Otsutsuki. She was an alien to this world. She came down from her home to Earth, and with her came the divine tree. From that tree came the chakra fruit, which she ate, gaining all the chakra in the world. She also gained a third eye on her forehead, a red version of the Rinnegan with 3 sets of tomo. I suppose you humans would rather refer to it as a Rinne Sharingan. With it, she could place the entire world under genjutsu. Anyways, Kaguya had 2 children, Hamura and Hagoromo. Hamura was born with his mother's original eyes, which later came to be known as the Byakugan." "Hold up," Hinata blurted out. "Are you saying that Hyuga descended from this Kaguya alien?" "Yes. Though, over the years, your clan's genetic connection has dwindled. At this point, I doubt you have any remnants of Kaguya in your family besides your eyes. Not that it matters. As for Hagoromo, who was later named the Sage of Six Paths, he was born with a Sharingan." "I thought you said he had the Rinnegan," Naruto said. "Can't you figure it out, brat?" the fox grunted. "The Rinnegan is the absolute highest form of the Sharingan. Now let me finish the story. The brothers found out Kaguya was using humans to create an army. The purpose of that army is unclear to me and other tailed beasts. But, since she was sacrificing human lives to do this, the 2 brothers had to seal her away. But before they could do so, she consumed the entirety of the divine tree, obtaining ultimate power. The monstrosity she became is now a legend that most have forgotten. Those few that know the legend refer to it as the 10 Tails." Naruto and Hinata blinked in utter shock. At a loss for words, Kurama continued. "Since they were the only ones who could, the brothers sealed the 10 Tails and Kaguya away, leaving behind the Ghetto statue, the 10 Tails husk. They sealed the statue in what is now the moon, which was created with the Rinnegan's power, and Hamura left for the moon in order to guard the statue. At some point, he sent some of his people back down to Earth, creating the Hyuga. Hagoromo remained on Earth for several years, but over time his strength dwindled, as the 10 Tails chakra he held was slowly killing him. He soon gave birth to 2 children. One of these children gave him the idea to use the Rinnegan's power to split the 10 Tails into 9 separate entities, thus creating us tailed beasts." "What happened to his children?" Naruto asked, regaining his composure. "Their names were Indra and Ashura. Indra inherited the Sharingan and created the basics of using chakra as ninjutsu, while Ashura didn't inherit much of Hagoromo's power. But there came the time for Hagoromo to pass on the remainder of his power before he passed away. Indra was blinded by power, making Ashura the one to succeed him. Over the rest of their lives, the two fought against one another. Indra fought for power, while Ashura fought to protect his people, as well as hide us-tailed beasts. So that statue the Akatsuki are using is the Ghetto statue, and they're trying to awaken the Ten-Tails, Naruto growled. Do they honestly believe they can control such a thing? Whatever the reason, they mustn't be allowed to complete their mission, Kurama responded. So what about that one member's Rinnegan, Hinata asked. How did he come to possess it? Uncertain, Kurama snarled. As I said, you need a pair of Sharingan to awaken the Rinnegan, but you also need something else. The genetic material of Ashura's descendants. Combining these two gives you the possibility of creating the Rinnegan. The Senju are the direct descendants of Ashura, but most of them are gone now. Even if there were more, the DNA needs to have the wood-style Kekkei Genkai within it in order to awaken the Rinnegan. Hashirama was the only wood user in history, and he's dead now, Naruto pointed out. Yes, though many Senju still have the Kekkei Genkai, they simply cannot use it for one reason or another, Kurama added. Regardless, obtaining both requirements is not extremely difficult. The Uchiha are all dead, but their eyes are in the custody of Danzo, and potentially others as well. Hashirama's grave is within the Hidden Leaf, and while it is heavily protected, it isn't impossible to get some of his DNA. But even if you do obtain both, there is no telling how long it will take until the Rinnegan awakens. So who could this Akatsuki stranger be? An Uchiha? Senju? Some other shinobi who managed to obtain them by random chance? Or through a very thoroughly thought out plan? Naruto pondered. Hard to say. I've never encountered his chakra signature before, so I have no idea who he is, Kurama responded. In other words, this guy is a complete mystery. Well, that's just great, Naruto huffed. We knew there was one guy in the Akatsuki we had no information about. And of course he has to have the damn Rinnegan. Troublesome indeed, Hinata moaned. Kurama closed his eyes. There is one piece of information that is worth remembering, he stated, making the couple look up at him. Due to how strong the Rinnegan is, it takes tremendous amounts of chakra to use just one of its many abilities. An average shinobi wouldn't even be able to use it. Senju and Uchiha could use it much better, but their chakra reserves would have to be large. And since the likelihood of this stranger being part of one of those clans is slim, their use of the Rinnegan is greatly limited. That's true, Naruto nodded, his blue eyes hardening. But there are clans out there that do possess superhuman amounts of chakra. Hinata let out a small gasp. An Uzumaki. Kurama nodded. The possibility is there. If that is the case, then they could give you a run for your money, Naruto. I honestly doubt you could go up against those eyes without my chakra backing you up. Naruto slammed his fist on the grassy earth, making his mindscape vibrate. Well, I'm fine with that. So long as we can beat them, I don't care how powerful I have to go. Kurama chuckled. Don't get cocky, brat. I'm not cocky, just confident, the blonde smirked. Hinata rolled her eyes. I'm happy the two of you are excited, but we have a mission tomorrow. Let's get some sleep. Kurama had no quarrels with that, since it meant he could roam free in Naruto's mind. It was the only time when the blonde's head was silent, so he had free reign of the place. Naruto liked the idea as well. They were likely to encounter Orochimaru on this mission, so he had to be prepared. If you like what you just heard, consider hitting the subscribe button and bell icon to get notified about new videos. If there's a part you've missed, then check out the entire playlist on screen. If you like this story, please share it with your fellow anime lovers. Any support helps a lot. That's all for now. This is Ninja Kai, disappearing in a golden flash.